Good day, Dr. Hirzel. An important aspect of liberalism, especially within the Austrian school, is the question of market economics. It is assumed that investment is the driver for social and economic progress on which the Commonwealth is based, and the trigger for investment is the future return of benefits. The basis for this mechanism is private property. Paraphrasing the Italian journalist and political analyst Lorenzo Napoleoni, you write the following: in a libertarian free market, there were no counterfeiting, just duplicates, imitations, copies of more or less similarity with the original and with their respective individual price strategies. If so, what would be the incentive for investment leading to innovation?
Hello. This question requires to go one step back and define three entangled issues named here: the concept of innovation, the idea of market, and the idea of counterfeiting. The argument of Napoleoni, for example in 2011, was that the origin of counterfeiting was the current market order, often described as capitalist or neoliberal. Her argument was that only a state controlling which form of reproduction and copying is allowed and which not, makes it possible to define a copy as illegal counterfeiting. If you read her books, you will learn that she is not speaking against private property, but the way in which current states help to monopolize powers. Marijuana grown in my garden is not less my property than the morphium growing on Afghan fields is the field's owner's. The first is illegal even for specialized companies. The second is one of the largest markets for the pharmaceutical industry. Strictly speaking, the neoliberal economic system is not a market system. In the best case, a state-intervened market system. But your question was another. Would there still be innovation if we had only legal copies, as assumed in the anarchist model? I guess you assume that the economic incentive of being able to sell a product without competition, and therefore at a higher price, is the incentive for innovating.
What is wrong with this?
In fact, the definition between a legal imitation and an illegal copy, counterfeiting, is a complex question which varies from country to country. I'm not sure what Napoleoni answers would be on this, but I can give you mine. Of course, I can only give you my position. The idea of innovation is closely related to progress in civilization. This supports the idea that the lifestyle of an indigenous tribe in Papua Guinea, for example, is less developed than an average social group in New York City, related to their advancement in industrialization and a canonized literacy. All examples of innovation as driver, which I have known, include always a form of simplification and dissection of the world based on the idea of creative destruction as a mechanism of process and product innovation, going back to Max Weber and Schumpeter.
What is wrong about this?
Let me explain this along two examples of this often celebrated understanding of progress. One is the German Bosch family and the other Swiss Jakob Guyer. During the Nazi period, the Bosch family laid part of their wetlands dry in order to produce more crop, and later their grandson restored that very same wetland, since the production had decreased almost to zero on these lands in only 2 generations. The German press presented both cases as innovative, whereas in fact it was rather the correction of a mistake. When little children build their building blocks and push them down to build them again, we say they are learning, not innovating, right? In Switzerland, there was an earlier model of this approach, described in Hirzel's Kleinjog, or Socrates of the Fields, a book from 1761. Apparently, the question is complex, as could be seen in recent empirical studies on open source production. For many, the financial burden was too high to sustain their projects. This would support your worry about incentives. On the other side, much of the innovative part in computer production relies more and more on free contributions. Almost all big companies, Microsoft and Macintosh, require at a certain state the most creative one and the testing one an open source contribution.
Those are apparently not good examples, but sometimes progress is achieved.
Often progress is too much linked to material issues and short-time human needs. As far as known by current science, there is no material progress. Matter is neither destroyed nor produced, only transformed. Innovation belongs to the field of nous. It is about the question how to transform matter to meet better human needs. If Schweitzer is true, then the closer we come to the ideal of civilization, the further we are progressed. Thus, it is not so relevant if we feed more human beings with technology or if we achieve to reduce the ratio of human population or expat towards another planet. The question is if we achieve our goals by the best possible respect of any form of life.
That sounds very much flower power.
Not at all. Loving others, loving the world means to meet their demands, create economic goods and consume goods others have produced. Therefore, true civilizatory progress should be found in attitudinal change, from which economic wealth was just a result.
You mean that if we follow this ethics, we would become wealthier also in material terms?
Be careful not to mingle the neoliberal definition of wealth as accumulation of material goods with the Mengerian conception of wealth as the best satisfaction of needs in a society. To answer your question with the right attitude, we would be able to meet better all our needs without destroying our environment. This requires more than the neoliberal concept of innovation. It requires true, genuine creation.
I understand. Thank you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.